All right. Hi, everyone. My name is John Branyan, and I am presenting my EDRM 723 digital portfolio. All right, let's get started. The theme of my portfolio is using real world performance assessments to help improve student learning outcomes. My portfolio outline is Artifact 1, Artifact 2, Artifact 3, and lastly, the portfolio reflection and summary. My portfolio artifacts. Artifact number 1 is obviously in keeping with my theme, is my performance assessment that I created for task 2. This performance assessment, it was called Barbie Bungee Jump. And I actually, in this assessment, have asked students to take a Barbie and several rubber bands and do some trials to find out how far Barbie can bungee on different numbers of rubber bands, which allows them to create a scatter plot. And by using a scatter plot, then they can create a line of best fit through that data. And by finding the slope and y-intercept, they can create an equation that best fits that data as well. And then later, and most importantly, they can use that equation to predict how far Barbie can jump from a much higher place in the school. And when we go there, we will do a trials of each one, and whichever group gets the Barbie's head closest to the floor without touching it is our winner. And I think students would really enjoy this performance assessment because of the real world nature. All right, my artifact number 2 is my article reflection. And the article that I chose was called Guiding Classroom Instruction Through Performance Assessment. And of course, this fits perfectly with my theme because it discusses how to appropriately use performance assessments. But specifically, this article talks about how to use them as pre-assessments, which I found extremely interesting because I have never thought about using them as pre-assessments. As a matter of fact, I thought students would have just lacked the knowledge or skills to do that, and in some cases may. But it did give some tips and tricks to help use them and to engage students from even before the lessons began. And I thought that was a really good way of explaining how to use performance assessments in your teaching. All right, my artifact number 3 is my quotes, and I picked participation activity number 7, which they all deal with the ethics of grading. The first one I chose is I try to effectively apply active learning strategies so that students can hear the purpose of the activity before we start, collaborate with each other without feeling isolated failure, and I can assess them more on the product of their collective work rather than individually. And I really like this quote because it does keep many times with the collaborative nature of performance assessments and grading the overall product that students create. And I thought this was a really good quote. Next, the next one I chose is I try to place more weight on collaborative projects because the main goal of the class is to have students build skills to be successful students. And I like that we do place a lot of weight on those collaborative projects and have done that in my recent years teaching because that is so true that we are just trying to build student skills so that they can learn to become successful students. That should be the goal of all teachers. And I would inform them, the third one is that I would inform them by giving points and taking points away that having nothing to do with the elements on the rubric. We are allowing our bias to get in the way of actually assessing students purposefully and ethically. And this one was in a discussion about how to ethically grade rubrics, which fit perfectly with my theme because rubrics just go hand in hand with performance assessments. And they can be very tricky, especially in this case, when grading with other people, other teachers who may disagree or want to do things that aren't really ethical. The final thing is my portfolio synthesis and reflection, and in this synthesis and reflection, I had 4 main points. They are real-world performance assessments must be linked directly to learning objectives, and that is extremely important. That's a perfect place to start because you need to start with your learning objectives and try to link them directly. Make sure that they fit the correct Bloom's level and that they are standards that would lend themselves to best being used or assessed through a performance assessment. Real-world performance assessments, number 2, real-world performance assessments are essential for authentic learning. And this is extremely true as well because the goal of performance assessments is to have students learn authentically through the use of and that's where the real world key component comes in, is to make this authentic and as realistic to the students as possible. And I think that is key to keeping students engaged in these assignments. The pros and cons of real world performance assessments, and in this section I discussed some pros, many of which that I haven't already discussed, and some cons, because there are some things and some instances where real-world performance assessments are not going to be very helpful, and some things that teachers need to think about before they begin. And I discussed that in the pros and cons section. And the final section is real-world performance assessments need to be meaningful. And I think this really sums everything up because it gets back to the heart of the issue, and that's to make sure that these assessments are meaningful both to the teacher, because they link directly to standards that are necessary to have these performance assessments, and also meaningful to the students, because that is the piece and the glue that holds everything together. It keeps student engagement up, and it also helps students connect, and most importantly, connect their knowledge to prior knowledge or prior situations that they already have some dealings with. And by linking that knowledge in their head helps to increase the long-term, convert all these processes and skills to long-term to long-term memory because they're linking them with prior knowledge. All right, I appreciate your time, and I really enjoyed doing this portfolio, and thank you.